Welcome to Toffee TV. We're joined in the studio by John Blaine, who's going to give us all the details, everything we need to know about Bramley Moor Dock.
Where's John from?
Where's he from?
What else does John bring with him?
No idea.
The gravitas from where?
No idea.
Everton Business Matters.
John Matters podcast.
John Blaine without an E from Everton Business Matters. Have we covered everything now? Because
sounds like
we normally get a thing through from you.
You're the only one who added the E. I don't know why you have to say there isn't any.
Well, because you missed the Business Matters, and I'm holding my hands up and going like that. You know, when a defender kicks the forward and immediately goes like that, I didn't touch him.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, it was my mistake with the E. I gave him an E. I shouldn't have given John an E.
It's going to get used on the internet now, isn't it? John, we heard some news last week about the funding for the stadium. Joe Anderson said that Everton might be looking elsewhere.
Joe coming off the off message a little bit, yeah.
So, do you think that's him just trying to create a little bit more time, or do you think Everton, obviously with the Usmanov rumours as well thrown into the mix, do you think it's all working itself the way Everton fans really want it to be, with Mr. Usmanov coming to Everton?
Which question do you want?
Well, start with Joe Anderson.
I think Joe's being pragmatic. I think and when we do the Business Matters thing, I always say time kills deals. Yeah, and you'd like to think that if the LCC thing was happening, yeah, then it might have happened by now, sort of thing. I think the official answer is that the default position is still that we want to do the deal with the council. I think. Nothing the club have publicised, I suppose, is the securitisation demands are quite high, and that, I guess, is what Joe needed to get it through cabinet and all those sorts of things. And what you have to do is you have to take a holistic view and say, okay, that's a really good deal for the city, and if there's still people out there who don't believe that, then they're lost causes, aren't they? So it's a really good deal for the city, but is it a really good deal for Everton? You know, and in Business Matters, we've always summarised it as being a good deal for both, because the borrowing cost isn't crazy, and obviously there's that benefit to the city. But if the securitisation limits your potential for financial investment down the line, because this is going to be a 25-year deal if we do it with the council, then you might actually say to yourself, you know what, in the round, it's not necessarily the best deal we could get. So what you'd expect, and I think the club have said this from the beginning, and certainly Denise talked about it when she became the chief exec, albeit just in a very tertiary sort of way, that we're looking at other funding models, because the one way you can confirm to yourself whether the council deal is a good one or not is to compare it with something, isn't it? Yeah. And I just think he's thinking two things. One is, I need to get all my political colleagues in line, because I think perhaps he's going to come under political pressure in the next year or so, mayoral elections and all those sorts of things, and say this is a really good deal for the city, and if we huff and puff and slow things down in a way while we go through our process and the like, Everton will go somewhere else. So I think that's part of it. That's not an in the know thing, that's just an observation. And I just think Mashiri and his financial people, which I guess is people like Rise Ansev and the like, they perhaps have this thought that all our eggs are in one basket at the moment for that initial 280 million. And perhaps we should have alternatives, and I do think they will have alternatives. Yeah, they'll want to get themselves into a position where there are alternatives. If the council thing starts getting hard and difficult with timetable, we say, sorry lads, we have to go somewhere else. Because the real thing, hence why I said to you, what's the question? What Everton fans really want is final confirmation that we really are going to move to Bramley Moor. Yeah. And that requires us obviously to submit a planning application. We still stand by, and we can all have opinions, but we still stand by what we've been formally told, be it at the general meeting of shareholders or things that Denise has said and Elston said before her and so on, that we'll submit a planning application this year. I don't see that myself, yeah, but it's not a big deal, because to get in there for 22-23, it's a spade in the ground before next summer, isn't it? So if you do a right to left plan, where you say, well, I've got to be digging stuff or prepping land or doing whatever I'm doing, and make it up 1st of July 2019, otherwise it can't be open in time, then as long as you get everything lined up before then, you're all right. Yeah. And I think Joe and the council in general, I think they've done a huge amount of work in, almost like purple corridor type stuff of making sure that all the ducks are lined up, English Heritage, the World Heritage Organisation, all those sorts of things, so that when we go for planning, notwithstanding the propensity of people who are worried about small boats or whatever,
Kites.
or kites, whatever it might be,
Tobacco warehouses.
or just being jealous that we'll have a proper build our third new stadium, sort of thing. That the planning application won't necessarily take as long as people think to get through. So that means before that is the money, and it's not necessarily all the money. It's the money that's necessary to make the planning application credible. And if you look at what other new stadia have done, particularly people like Tottenham and the like, you can start building when you haven't actually got all the funds yet, to finish the thing, but you will have in time. So, I mean, I said to somebody after I met with Mashiri that I thought early part of September we'd hear something, and that was a balanced view. What I didn't necessarily say is, with a bit of a following wind, it might be during August, but I'm not going to lose any sleep if it's the end of September, or indeed if it slips into October, as long as what we say is powerful and strong. And I think the club often says we don't want to say things until everything's firm.
Place,
And I was at the club this morning, for Everton in the community, and one of the things I was saying to them is we just got to trust in the fan base, really. Silence isn't always a good idea.
No.
And somehow we have to get the fan base to understand if we show something, and it turns out it's not going to be exactly like that, then not saying anything because we fear the reaction, it could actually be worse than dealing with it. And this is where, with organisations like Toffee TV and the Blue Room and the like, and maybe even Everton Business Matters, I suppose, it can help the fan base understand that projects of this scale are not going to come out exactly as we intend. Just like the legacy at Goodison Park, which is going to be tremendous, won't be exactly like the architect's impression that Denise showed in the AGM at the beginning of this year, because it ain't going to come to fruition for 3 or 4 plus years. So trust in the fan base, give them some insight. Clearly we all want to see some images, and finally, as a board, get a bloody grip in the sense of come to a final conclusion on what you think the capacity is going to be. And if it's not what a load of fans want, have a good way of explaining why it is what it is. So optimistic that we'll hear something really quite soon. I don't know, I suppose I should come back mid-September and say, you talked a load of shit, you didn't you? But I'd hope in the next couple of weeks maybe, and certainly if you think about when would you want to land news, do it during an international break. Do it when people like Sky are desperate for content and the like, and do it then to get maximum bang for your buck.
In terms of the loan and stuff, do you, just looking at it as Everton Business Matters, so to speak, the three of you,
we don't all agree on everything.
No.
This is one of those where...
Well, fair enough, but what, in terms of where Everton get the loan from, how do you sit? Would you rather it be with the council, or do you think for Everton's benefit it would be better getting it from somewhere else?
Without being a party to what the alternatives are. But what I am confident is that under the guidance of people like Shiri, who at the end of the day is the largest shareholder, doesn't sit on the board, that they'll do, and what they need to do is what's best for the club. Now if it's marginal, like we talk about interest payments or something, if it's a bit more expensive from the council than it would be from Santander or some Chinese investment bank or whatever it might be, let's go with the council, because the value to the city is worth it. And I think that's what they'll end up doing.
And it'll piss loads of people off, John, which would be brilliant.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't though, should it?
It shouldn't,
I mean,
but
it will,
and it'll
it
be
will,
boss.
but there should
Especially
be
after Anfield was knocked back for the planning
yesterday, well, they'll
which will
come
make
back
it
with
even
it.
more sweeter.
And people who are observant.
What?
It's true.
They'll all have to put the little ships up for sale. Rent out the little tobacco warehouses. It'd be amazing.
They'll love it, won't they? They'll all get behind us then.
But talking about the other side, though, one of the things which should give Evertonians some confidence is that for the first time in many a long year, they're starting to do things like trying to get extended use of the stadium, because the fear, they know Bramley-Moore's going to happen, and that's going to be the go-to venue in this city.
Peter Moore's already said he's quite happy that Everton are building the stadium. Whether he meant it or not, but obviously he said the same thing, and I've said it. When Liverpool play, you see how many people are in the city and how many visitors come from outside. And if you've got pride in your city and you want to see your city do well, then that doesn't bother me. And obviously they've had good success with the new stand. So But they obviously they want to compete. If that happens, you know, well, not much if the stadium happens. If they know the stadium's going to happen, they're going to have to start competing for those concerts and those other sporting events, and they need to start that now. They've got 4 years, I would say.
It's a head start.
A head start.
And that's the point. They want to try and establish. We should talk about our stadium, not theirs, should we? But they want to establish that theirs is the, I don't know, the pop concert or the rock concert venue or whatever else you can do inside a stadium. Yeah, before we get there, because there's no doubt that if you're some mega global star who wants to perform in the Northwest and you can't get into Old Trafford or you can't get into a cricket ground, or you actually want to do it in Liverpool, then you're going to go to Bramley Moor because it's going to look beautiful, it's going to be great for the photographs, it's going to be great for the videos, But if you've been 3 years on the trot to their second-hand stadium, then perhaps you think, oh, I'll go there because I know it. So Moores isn't being stupid.
Yeah.
He can see the threat of the so-called challenger brand. Ferguson coined for Manchester the noisy neighbours. We're going to be really noisy, yeah. And if we start getting on-field progress as well, then we'll just reassert something that's been in place now for 140 plus years, whatever it is. Yeah, as that we are the senior club in the city. We were here first. We're the only people who build new stadia. We're the only people who enhance citizens' experiences, regardless of who they support.
No, I mean, you're right because it. Woo!
I'll come again.
Okay. No, but you're right though, because at the end of the day, Liverpool have been knocked back because of the area, because it's the surrounding area is a residential area, and those people saying they want a couple of months of peace. Whereas at Bramley Moor, you've got an unrestricted area, no real community around until you get north, I would say, to Eldonian, which is miles away really from the stadium. It won't really affect it. So people will look at that and that should be enough to get all these global superstars. I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't think they would be one bit arsed. They get brought in a bus, put in a hotel.
The promoter will, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But the promoter will see what the promoters will the value of it, and I'm sure that's what Moore will be doing next few years, be whining and dining all these big companies to try and make sure. But he obviously can't do that at the moment. So
you should bring them on a bus. Let's bring them on a boat.
That's what we'll do. But they can't bring them on a boat. I don't know if you've noticed, Baz, but Anfield's quite landlocked.
It's about us. We can bring ours on boats.
You talk about the local community objecting, which often they do around stadia, don't they? Because we think we're okay in the summer because there's no football, and then you come along and say you're going to have, I don't know, some band there or something. But you also reap what you sow. So in extending their ground, they weren't particularly fussed about the local community. They were quite brutal. They got what they wanted in the end, which is a bigger stand where they can have loads more tourists and all that sort of stuff. And yet you look at the way Everton are doing it with the Goodison legacy, the People's Place, how we're going to engage with the local community, what is it you need, what is it you want, and all those sorts of things. And sometimes you can say, well, that's a bit soft, a bit cuddly, a bit, and all that sort of stuff. And maybe sometimes we need to be a bit more business orientated, a bit more brutal, a bit more objective. And the balance is somewhere in between, yeah? But we're a hell of a lot closer from our community spirity type stuff with Everton in the community and things like that. We're ever a lot closer, and it's easier to make the journey from there to being business objective than it is to be hard-nosed chaser of money and come this way. And Peter Moores can say what he wants, but and I'll just say it, inevitably an Evertonian, so I would say this, wouldn't I? Yeah, but they've got a lot of work to do with the Liverpool Foundation. Is it called the LFC Foundation? Their version of Everton in the community. They've got a lot of work to do before people will generally accept that as being much more than a PR exercise. Yeah, and that alone is an acknowledgement that we dominate the city in those things. Yeah, all the things Everton community does, it doesn't do it for Evertonians. It does it for citizens of this city, our city, and done correctly. And that's why we get frustrated on Everton Business Matters, because we're not extracting full value from some of the things that we do. We don't see it turning into commercial contracts. We don't see it turning into projects happening as quickly as they should, and so on. But those boys next door,
who were making loads of noise because they're waiting for the Champions League draw.
Yeah, they they should be concerned that this sleeping giant, yeah, if we get anywhere near beyond half our potential, they should be really worried, yeah, because all those, you know, and Mashiri says at AGMs we're not a museum and so on, but when you're making really sharp decisions and when you're really doing the right things in the right way at the right time and extracting value, then all those things which he was almost talking negatively about become strengths then. That we have been here the longest. We have built 3 new stadiums. There's going to be 3 cathedrals in this city, yeah. And I just, you know, I've done me, you know, on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey. That's the next one, boys and girls. 3 cathedrals in this city, you know, but one of them won't be for spare, yeah. We're going to keep that one. And, you know, and they've never built a stadium. They're second-hand Charlies, yeah. So let's make sure that their lovely little period, and you just have to look at what's happening at Man United, don't you? You know, your day comes in the end, you know, and they should look and see to themselves, what the hell is this city going to be like when the noisy neighbours suddenly become top dog? Kids, you know, 3 lines on your shirt, 20 years of hurt. They're going to get 30 years of hurt rammed down their throats, big style. You know, so
just off the back of that,
it's all business stuff.
You went all teamily then. There's always a pair of us were going.
I just
don't cry about.
Do you think that saying all that? Do you think though the club might take the hard line and say, in terms of the council, because obviously we want to take the money off the council. We want to invest back into the city. But something you touched on before, there's a lot of infighting in this council.
Yeah.
You know, the Liberals are having a go at Joe.
Well, there's only a handful of them.
Yeah, no, but they're trying to make as much noise.
Yeah.
The for some reason, the likes of the Echo, every time something's said, they put it front page and make it noise about it. But then there's also the issue within the Labour Party as well at the moment, and you're getting them starting to ask questions, which doesn't mean. Do you think the club might just end up going, we don't need all this extra noise. We can get this money. We don't need all this extra problems. We can just get it and cut through all this. And we don't, even though we're offering to give you something back, but yet it's getting thrown back at us, and it's costing us time, and time will cost us money, and we just want to get on with it. Do you think that'll? Because I can see that happen as well with the club. Just go, Michelle will go, I don't need this. I've tried my best to look at it from a community perspective, but at some point I'm going to have to look at it from a business perspective.
Well, they're both the same thing, yeah. And you know, and I do always talk about right to left plans, yeah, because clearly you build a plan or project plan, but then you can look at it from the end game, i.e. the stadium's open. You know, the first games at home, you know, the pre-season game, you know, the last one that's traditionally at the home ground. It'll be Real Madrid or Barcelona or whoever is top dog at the time, you know, a big name, maybe some American club, who knows,
you know, who knows,
cheer you up, yeah. But you come back to that, don't you? You go right to left, and you say, well, we've got to submit a plan application, and we expect it to take this long, and then we need a thingy in the ground. I was going to say a peg in the ground then, a peg in the ground, right?
Ooh. Don't.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Don't.
But then it becomes...
I mean, but by all means, if I am, put me under Bramley more.
But then there comes a decision point.
Fill the dock first, clearly. Don't put me in the dock and then...
But then you come to a decision point,
I'm a bit to see.
You come to a decision point, don't you, which is really where your question is, on that tipping point, and that says, can we do the deal with the council? Yes or no? And it needs to be done by this date to enable these other things, yeah. And maybe we'll do
it's not a date like Oliver Giroud's date.
Well, whatever, Olivia, yeah.
The date that.
But anyway, and then you'd have to make a decision, yeah. Because you know, and do it that way. But there's intangible advantages of using the council's money, isn't there? Because apart from the fact that it's good for the city, but they'll be our partners, therefore planning must be a bit easier, mustn't it? The infrastructure investment and so on and so forth. But Joe, if he's still the man who influences things, will enable that anyway, because he did it for their extension, if you like. Yeah, he said he'll help them with their extended use, and he's always said those sorts of things. Anything that's good for the city, he'll put his shoulder behind. But there must be a clock running somewhere that says we can't have another year delay. We can't have another subliminal delay like we had in the last general meeting, where all of a sudden we just casually say, "Oh, it's a year later now." Yeah. But we also have to have the caution. Just look at what happened to Tottenham. They've been 8-9 years at theirs. But the issue is Goodison Park, of course. I know we've had all the jokes from years gone by about safety certificates and sorts of things. But we'll come to a point where the maintenance costs of this thing probably outweigh the interest payments on the loan. So that hard-nosed financial decision is, and again, fans can almost think, it's not if we move, it's just when. And the when gets closer every day. Because 5-6 years down the line, we cannot afford to be here.
No.
So you could almost say that's a long stop that we have to be in. I don't know when, can't do the sums in my head, it'd be 23, 24 or something, wouldn't it? Or maybe 24, 25. But they're real long stops. So why not go for the 22, 23?
I don't know if you'll know this. What's Steve Rotherham's position on this? Because he seems to be. He seems to. I mean, to be number one, Mayor, I don't know what he does for a start. Yeah. He's the Metro Mayor, but I don't understand what he does. It's never really been explained. I know he gets the big pot of money, apparently, from the government, and then starts. Well, it's devolved government stuff, so there's certain things that fall within the remit, isn't it, of the Metro Mayor, so transport's one, for example, things like that. But that's it. I don't know if this sort of thing falls within the remit. Okay. Because it would be nice to hear from him on it, because you know what, if he spoke about it, and he is openly a Liverpool fan, and that's fine, you know, it would be nice to almost get his little interview going. I fully back Everton doing this. It's great for the city. I'm fully behind this if they want to get the loan money. Because then suddenly you haven't got Blue Joe helping Everton out. You've got Steve Rotherham, who fought tirelessly for Hillsborough for the 96, big Liverpudlian, you know, season ticket holder, whatever next. You've got him suddenly giving you the weight behind it, and I think that would be a real shot in the arm for a stadium. Well, it was, and we back in, I don't know when it was now, certainly in the last 2 or 3 months, at Business Matters, we spoke to Joe Anderson and to his chief of staff and stuff like that. So we almost wanted to do, and we play host, I suppose, and Roger would be Dimbleby or whatever, but almost like a question time. And so you could have on the desk or on the table, you know, the man at one end who's true, but maybe it's you, say, you know, I don't care, it's good for Everton, so I'm in. And then the red at the other end, I don't care if it's for Everton, I'm not in. But then you'd have those politicians in between, one being an Evertonian, as it turns out, Joe, and one being a Red, as it turns out, Rotherham, and they could have, you know, reasoned debate about it. And then someone could ask him that question, you know, and clearly the killer question is, do you think this is good for the city, yes or no? No wriggle room there, is there? Now, he'd probably say, well, you have to ask Joe, because it's his city. Okay, is it good for the region? But we voted him in. Yeah. We voted him in as a Metro Mayor. No, we voted. Well, you voted both of them in. Exactly. Yeah. So we voted him in, and yet he's really quiet on this. Maybe it just, I don't know, and I'd have to check it, and I will. But surely a deal, and I'm not talking about the loan. I'm talking about the actual stadium. The loan is nothing to me. It doesn't make any difference because it's not coming from the council. You don't care where it's coming from. Yeah. It's not coming from the council. It's coming from the government. The original source is. But if I was just from let's say from a World Heritage site, if I was someone who wasn't interested in football and I looked at it purely from a World Heritage site, I'd want to know how this benefits the city. So I'd want not to do with World Heritage, but that's another thing that's been thrown into the mix, hasn't it? The World Heritage site and all that's been thrown into the mix. Sorry, you mean the good of the city? Because the implication it might be taken. So forget about the money. Away, yeah. I'd want to know from Steve Rotherham as my elected Metro Mayor. Yeah. How does that benefit the city? Because we still haven't heard that. How does a huge project like this, that is going to be the catalyst for the 10 streets developments? How does regeneration. How does that help the city? I want to know because you're my Metro Mayor. Why isn't that being asked? I don't understand. It's Joe. Yeah, you're the mayor, but you're the Metro Mayor. You're in control of the bigger picture. Yeah, but Joe logically doesn't work for Steve. No, I know. It's not a hierarchy, so it could simply be that is within the remit of the elected mayor, and the Metro Mayor doesn't get involved in that sort of stuff. It'd be nice to just have his opinion, though, wouldn't it? Because, like Pat said, he's a Red. Yeah. So if he turn around as well and say, we know what the Lib Dem man's opinion is. So. Yeah. So if Joe's doing it, I don't like it. Exactly. Well, that's more of the case, isn't it? I just think, you know, when having worked in local government and seen the cuts every year,
and every year, and it gets let, and you're having to save more money, and seeing the implications on the public, and seeing the implications on children and families within this city, and there's less money for them, and food banks and clothes banks and everything. If something can generate this city £7 million a year, or between 4 and 7 million, whatever, it's not even an issue that needs discussion. It's just, what is it? 7 million, come on, because we haven't got money. And every year it's getting cut.
Yeah, you need to be careful though, because a couple of things happen, don't they? If you're a challenger in cabinet, say, you're saying to Joe, okay, 7 million quid, that's good. Prove to me we couldn't get more from someone else. Because, you know,
with that pot of
the money comes from central government. There's limits on how much they can borrow and use, and all those sorts of things. And, you know,
but then
Bramley-Moore would take a big chunk of it, and therefore you can't prove a negative, can you?
No,
someone
but
might say, "Oh, we're going to regret this down the line." We give, because that's what people will say. We give Everton 280 million quid and get 7 million back for it, effectively. And then someone pops up 2 years later and says, "Oh, you're giving that to me? I'd give you 14 million." Then it looks like a crap deal. So,
can that 14 million, the amount of people we're going to put within that region?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? And that's why you have to
spending into the city, out the city, transport, everything else. It's a no-brainer.
It's where you have to do and this is all in business casey type stuff, isn't it? And hopefully, with the degree of transparency that you have in local government, we might see some of this as and when it goes to cabinet and stuff. But you've got the direct benefits, which are really objective, like we will get 7 million quid. Then you've got the indirect ones. You know, and that's why Joe's been playing a long game around what the benefits are, and about bookending the regeneration of that whole part. Does it increase you know, if the stadium gets announced and it's definitely going to get built, does that increase the likelihood of stuff happening between this end and that end?
Of course.
Yes or no? Yes. Does that therefore mean business rate income will go up? Yes or no? Yes. Now, you'll always have the naysayer who will say, "Oh, well, that's going to happen anyway." Is it?
Well, it's not happening so far.
No one wants to be at the end of a line.
But it's the other stuff as well,
and we're offering to be at the end of the line and fill the gap in.
That's what I'm saying. It's the other stuff as well. It's the roads that are all getting all getting done because of that. It's
the trains.
It's the trains. It's the cruise terminal's going to be within the distance. There's that other side of it, like you've just said. At the moment, you've got the Titanic Hotel, and then you've got town, and there's nothing in between, and it makes it a very, very long. It feels like a long. Do you remember when the Albert Dock, right? You had the Albert Dock, right, and then you had Chivas Park.
You're too young to remember.
I know. You've got Chivas Park, then you've got the Moat House. And it felt like the Albert Dock felt like a million miles from town. Now it feels right there, and you see the tourists just crossing the road, and the Albert Dock.
Liverpool one, cross the road,
and they're there, and everything feels connected. At the moment, that end of town, and it's a little bit with the Baltic as well. This needs to happen with the Baltic. You need to fill the gaps so that it doesn't feel a million miles away.
Sprawling city on the waterfront.
Exactly.
And if you go, when we go up and do stuff by Bramley-Moore, and when we've been to the wind farm and things like that. There's nothing around there. You go around and it's like...
Well, you wouldn't open a shop, would you? You wouldn't open a shop. You wouldn't even open a small hotel.
It's amazing that pub stays, the Bramley-Moore
Well, that's because all the drivers go in and stuff, but the hotel's there because it's a luxury hotel and people don't mind, and they don't mind getting a taxi from there to town. But if you can have smaller hotels, and then business will open off the back of that.
It will.
So
guest houses and stuff, or however that may be.
Preaching to the converted here.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying for people. But it's if you're just looking at it as a template of like, what benefit is this? Like you just said, we'll go to the end. We'll be where you finish. Yeah. And then we'll fill that in, and you know what? From there to there, it'll look amazing, and then at the end, you've got to stay there.
And if this is the river,
it'll look amazing.
It'll go that way as well. That's where the streets come in.
Go back from the river. It's the whole area. So anyone, the way I look at it, anyone objecting is just bitter, and they don't want Everton to have anything. If it was Liverpool, we'd be getting talked down to as against your city, are you? You're against this, you're against that, blah blah. Because it's Everton, they've had it. The problem is they've had their own way too long in this city, Liverpool.
Of course, what we have now, of course, is we're 100 days into the new board, and I know Paul would say it's not a new board because they've all been around, but it's
a new structure.
Yeah, and therefore that's long enough.
Yeah.
So we've got a full-time guy who permanent employee of the football club, Keith Harris. He lives up north now. He's the man accountable. He's got Colin Sean as his project guy, I guess.
Yeah.
And therefore they need to tell us some stuff.
Yeah.
And I think they will. And that needs to play into all the things we've just been talking around, really, around key messages. And it's not just about what's going to be good down on the river, it's going to be what's good at L4, most deprived bloody place in the country, and all those sorts of things. Because all that community around there must be thinking, well, if this really goes, what happens to my chip shop? What happens to the shops? What happens to this?
We need to start preparing as well.
And all that has to happen as well. So it's glib and it's easy to say it's a complex project, but that's not an excuse not to have a critical path that says here's the key milestones of what's going to happen, and that stadium, on whatever the date is, in August 2022, it's going to be there.
It's opening,
and we're all going to be really proud, And between now and then, we have a big angst about the capacity wasn't big enough, it was too small, it's too big. Some might think we're never going to fill it, whatever. We'll forget all that when we're in there,
and it's full,
and people can't get tickets if the capacity is too low, or whatever, or we're making loads and loads of money because the capacity is just right. So it's exciting times, and I just think Keith Harris, probably chivied along, I suppose, by Denise, will say something, or the club will say something quite soon.
What's your view on Usmanov?
I would say never.
Okay.
I think, again, we haven't done an EBM for a while because Paul's really overseas and technology makes it all a bit yucky, and you can only say
He's in Russia.
He's not.
Talking to Alice.
Is it North America?
You
can only do same thing so often, isn't it? And we've just been doing it now for 5-10 minutes, haven't we? You've just easily tripped out all the positives for the city, and then you summarise it as, well, if those naysayers don't get it, they're lost causes because they don't want truth. The truth about Usmanov is interesting, isn't it? If we were doing an EBM, you'd have Roger saying, damn right he's coming, sort of thing. You'd have Paul, no he's not, and you'd have Roger accusing me of sitting on the fence, because I'll go whichever way looks most likely, but I would say never about that, because we did EBM ages ago, and we were happily in concert as a threesome. That he's never going to bail out of Arsenal, so it's a nothing conversation. So while time kills deals, circumstances change opinions as well. And whilst he said publicly he'll help his friend if his friend asks for it, he's also saying, but that's as an investment. So he doesn't want to, I don't think, today, want to suddenly pop up and appear on the board. I mean, he doesn't appear on his own board, does he? Because Mosh, he chairs that. But I wouldn't at all surprise me if he invested a significant chunk of money. And I certainly know from when I met with Farhad, Farhad personally is prepared to pile in a load more money himself as well. So for the stadium, I mean, not just generally.
See, I look at it the way I've always thought he'll come on board, always.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
Just by different things.
Is that because you want it to be?
No. Well, I do want, of course, but I just think it makes no sense for them not to. I think what's happened, that's changed, and this is the reason why I really think it's going to happen now. I don't expect him to have sold his shares and come out and go, I'm going to Everton, because that's not what he does. But I just think he's he's into his football, Usmanov, but he's also very, very, he wants to prove something in England, and he hasn't been able to do it at Arsenal, and he doesn't like Big Stan. So I just think the chances of that happening now have gone up again, because I think it's
a bit of bully, isn't it? Just look what you could have done.
Exactly, right, and that's why, because I think he's going to come, puff the chest out and go, bang, let's go after you, this is what you could have had, because that's what they wanted to do with Arsenal. If you even read back to the Red and White Holdings, the open letter, this is what we want to do, buy the best players, pay the top money, build this stadium, blah de blah de blah. They were never allowed to do it.
I think one thing we could talk about Usmanov being, if anything did happen there, and you're sort of saying when, not if, and I'm still saying if you like, is it would be icing on a cake, because one thing that me and Paul do agree with is that Mashiri has got the resources to do it himself. So it's not like, oh my god, we need to get this guy on board or things are not going to happen.
If you've got a few billionaires.
See, the problem is though, I don't think he will, and the reason I don't think
Usmanov.
And the reason I don't.
Oh, we got threesome. I'm on the fence.
Well, no, and the reason I don't think he will.
So you're Roger.
Am I in the middle?
It's
funny you said that.
The reason I don't think he will is, for the sake of Everton, I think he's better on the outside, because then in effect he becomes like what Etihad are to Manchester City. They can circumvent FFP. Paris Saint-Germain do the same thing. They can circumvent FFP by having an outside source that says, oh, we've just give you the stadium rights, and we've just put the sponsor on your kit, and we've just give you this, and we've give you that. I don't own any shares, mate.
There is
Where they do.
to do it.
Etihad, clearly the family have connected.
It's how much he wants it.
But the family have
Put his
connected.
career in
City,
as well.
Etihad are owned by the same people who own Manchester City.
Yeah,
but by
yeah.
keeping it separate, that allows them to put it on the shirt, allows the stadium to be owned, and that circumstance. Because it doesn't matter if we've got billions and billions of pounds. We can't spend billions and billions of pounds.
Not at the moment.
Well, no, we never will be able to, because FFP won't change the likelihood the way it is
but
now.
it's your income. So
I
if
know,
your income
but that
goes
takes
up,
years and years and years. Manchester City are finding it now. It's not an easy step
No,
to
it's
just.
not an easy, but look at Man City, what they can pay compared to what we can pay.
No, I
Look
know.
what they could pay 10 years ago compared to what they...
But if they've learnt anything from that, is why not just keep yourself separate, and then you can go.
Oh, of
the new
course.
stadium is the new,
Well,
whatever.
he's got 70 companies.
Well, there you
hasn't
go.
he, or some
Exactly.
stupid
So there you
whatever.
go. It's the Telephone Stadium. It's this. It's that.
Yeah.
The kit is sponsored by. Don't need sports page. We can have one of his companies, and he just
400
it's
million.
like
City
Finch
did
Farm
with-
is worth the money we're getting for Finch Farm. It's not, but it's a nice way to get round FFP. So I can see him coming in like that.
Well, it's interesting, and you know, if people do the little bit of research, like you say, go and find the letter, Red and White Holdings, and all those sorts of things, yeah. And but instead of thinking, is he going to come or not or whatever, ask yourself a very simple question, and I think everyone who watches this should come up with the same answer. Really, after 20 years of working together,
Yeah,
do you think these guys are not talking about Everton right now?
yeah, I know.
Were they talking about Everton yesterday? Will they be talking about Everton tomorrow? And there'll be an alignment one day where Usmanov thinks, that's quite good for me. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Or, as he said publicly, my mates asked for some help, so I'm helping. And you're right. As hard-nosed business people, they'll say, how can we maximise the outcome of whatever help I provide? You know, now doing a rights issue and I end up with £100 million worth of shares, and therefore Everton can use that money for whatever they want, is clearly one way of doing it. But if I do it in a different way, it gives more flexibility going down the line. And I think it's also, and Paul does talk about, would it be disrespectful in the sense of, you know, bringing Usmanov in as, if you like, the bigger billionaire, if you will, you know, does that give Farhad, does he miss his chance to prove, I could have done this, I could have been a contender, yeah? So it's all about enablement at the end of the day, and the rank and file fan doesn't really care, does it?
No.
I also think
they don't care.
I think a clear indication of that as well is that because Machiri's not on the board.
The Everton board.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, I think that's saying I run the club, but I don't need to be on the board, and I think that's almost like Usmanov as well. I don't need to have my hands.
You don't?
Don't need to have my fingers on anything, but I can still be a big part of this club.
Well, there is a part
I
of it.
suspect, you know, he's been a big part in the past already.
Yeah.
Because,
course he has.
you know, I mean, we won't talk of them because they're not necessarily the nicest billionaires, I mean.
Yeah.
You know, there's billionaires in our past who would help board members with advice and guidance, but because they're not the sort of billionaires you'd like to be associated with, yeah, then it becomes a half empty type. Why are we listening to him?
Yeah.
Why are people going to see him? Sort of thing. Yeah. On the other side, people are almost deciding Usman, despite whatever his background might be, you know, is a nice billionaire.
Uncle Alistair, my cuddly uncle.
Yeah, we're prepared to listen to that. Yeah,
Well, that's because
and it
of
would just be
what he said,
crazy after all these years of Farhad and Alicia were not talking to each other reasonably regularly, and you could just imagine Twitter going into meltdown if he ever appears in the director's box at Everton just to watch a game. You know,
I could even.
I think Farhad should invite him just for the sport. You know, come and sit next to me and Bill and see what happens.
And watch
the Arsenal game.
Yeah, the Arsenal game.
I could see Usmanov even buying another club, like a smaller club.
Well, perhaps a European one. Italy
Well, that's what Leicester have done, haven't they?
Yeah.
Leicester have bought a team in Belgium, and they're farming players through them. They've got
Yeah.
George Hurst, didn't they, from Sheffield Wednesday,
he's gone
and they're
up,
circumventing England. So yeah, I can imagine doing things like that. Just
Yeah.
all comes back to Everton, but anything that helps now, anything that gets you round whatever law you need to get round. These are billionaires. These have been doing these kind of things for years.
Bottom line is, on the field's looking promising.
Yeah.
We need to hear some messaging around the stadium, just for those people who are feeling a bit nervous. We haven't heard anything, and if you think about it in a very objective way, the last thing we heard formally was the previous chief exec saying we're going to submit a plan application this year. Yeah, and the next general meeting is due in this calendar year. It'll probably again, like the last couple, be in early January. So again, the new board and the largest shareholder, they know they're going to be a shareholders meeting. You don't want to go to that shareholders meeting not having said anything.
No.
Yeah. And you might even argue, if you are going to say something, and maybe it's not going to be, everyone gets their dream view of the world, yeah, then you want a gap, don't you, between saying it and the general meeting, yeah. But there's a good feel good thing going on at the moment, so you can build upon that. And I'd be personally disappointed if we don't hear anything before the end of the international window, because it means we've lost our bottle a little bit again. And we've been here before, back in March, when we expected, and then they backed away from it at the last minute, worried about what the reaction might be. Which is why winning it on Saturday is important. So everyone's in a positive, receptive mode to whatever's going to come.
What are you expecting to hear, though?
I just think they'll give an update around where they are with the financing.
Okay.
Yeah? Because it's a nothing announcement without it. Yeah. If you can't finalise that, you've got to say something.
Yeah,
but if you can't be definitive about that, you have to provide something else instead. And that means images, I guess. And minimally, I'd like to see, just to kill the rumour mill type stuff, to say the last thing we told you was this stadium was going to be up and running and ready to use and all that good stuff for season 22-23. That's still the case.
Done. Yeah.
Yeah. And that alone would be some good news, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I think they...
and I think they will do that.
Yeah, I think the Commonwealth Games really sort of threw their span in the works, didn't it? It was the thing that was
a bogey.
No, but that was the thing that was propelling it, wasn't? That was keeping it in the news all the time. And as soon as we
information.
As soon as we lost that to a very, very average city somewhere in the middle of the country, it just disappeared. But let me just change.
We've got chalk and cheese. Don't forget, between the chief execs. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got the. I said it previously. Denise spoke to the media, including the national, the local, whatever, more in those first 90 days than bloody Elston probably did in 90 months if he was here that long. You know what I mean? So that's important. But a bit like Toffee TV or Everton Business Matters or the Blue Room or whatever, you can't keep saying the same thing over and over again.
Oh, we do try.
So the next time, whether it's Denise or the chairman or the club, say something, it has to be new.
Yeah.
It can be of something of note, but new.
Yeah.
Let's just,
we were only joking. We're saying it good as
let's just finish off by talking about something that she did say, and it was a positive. The new headquarters at
fantastic.
We were there last week. We got a little look at. We went to see the new.
You got
kit.
a unique presentation of a strip, didn't you?
Just we did. Very unique, exclusive. Some may say.
Was exclusive.
If you'd known in advance it was exclusive, you could have called it that.
It was great.
We don't try and brag. What have you? Because obviously we got to see it. You've got to see it. I mean, it does.
I went in. It was great.
It does let you. It does make you think things are definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah. It's awesome. I challenge anybody to go into particularly when you come out the elevators, and see that large reception area. Whoa, yeah, that's cool, isn't it? And then if you walk, the football.
I felt like Tom Hanks in Big.
Yeah.
The piano,
all the toys.
But it's a classic, no expense spirit type thing. Yeah. And lots of people in there must have a really good feel good factor of working in that building as a starter. But then actually the 7th floor itself is so tremendous. But again, the hard-nosed businessman would say, you all feel good about it, let's see the productivity go up, let's see the outcome go up, let's see us get better deals because you're all happy now, working in this wonderful environment and the like. And use it as well. I had a brief chat, I can't remember when it was, with Denise about it, and they've got plans that down the line people will be able to get ready access to it, perhaps go and use it occasionally and stuff like that. And certainly about the old Blue Nose thing, where we're having part of the book launch there and the like. But it's just tremendous, and if people can wangle a way in there, they should, because it's great. If you know anyone who works there, get them to get you in.
Yeah, definitely.
It is incredible.
The cake's nice.
The cake was nice, actually.
I mean, that was a real good part of just being the only people there.
Yeah, you ate all the cake.
We got all the cake.
Got 3 pieces of cake.
Who ate all the pies then?
We didn't get any pies. It was loads of cake.
Thought about it, didn't we? In the cafe.
Loads. Oh yeah, the cafe was nice. Yeah.
I met with Mo once, and he brought a little cupcake for me in a box. I think it's Sports Payson sponsored them or something. Yeah. And I left it.
Oh, never leave cake.
Just
rule of life.
Eat it with a cup of tea. No, it is. It's incredible when you're up there. You do look and just go.
Yeah.
Keep looking for windows to look out of.
You can see, and you can see Bramley Moor as well. You can imagine it just coming.
You can't see their Lego building either.
That's the best bit.
So you can see the good stuff, but you can't see the bad
See
stuff.
the other stuff.
There you have it.
What a way to finish.
Lego.
Lego. So having a Lego, what a tackle.
No idea. Anyway, big thanks to John
Right,
for coming in from the Everton Business Matters podcast. You can hear him now and again on there.
Mid-September.
Mid-September, they'll be back.
Plenty to say then.
Just regurgitating exactly what you just said. And hopefully we'll have some news then, and you can talk all about it. Make sure to check out the podcast, and sure John will be back in soon to give us an update on anything that's going on. We'll see you then. See you later.